They fundamentally don't trust that it is possible that you can be of color and poor, but have high aspirations, expectations, and results.
Even though my mother studied at NYU, went to, but they still felt that, oh, those black educators over there, what do they know? They're not. So, because it became a surprise when they came in, and I remember my mother commenting about this, after Millicent was sacrificed on the barricades. But anyhow, integration, and they had to integrate those who came in to observe the schools and do accreditation and everything. They were absolutely, I don't remember the book, I wish I had paid more attention. The group was shocked that those books were in the library at Burke School, and they told her that she couldn't have them out on the open shelf, that she had to take those books and put them behind, kind of like, censoring the book, censoring, because radical?
Yes.
Well, not only they're just radical for their thoughts, radical for the level at which they were written, acted. I mean, it was just radical to be there, and some of them probably didn't have them in the white schools, so these books had to be placed behind the counter.
And
so
see, I call that activism.
When integration happened, the mission statement of the public school system didn't change to fit African American kids. It integrated African American kids into a system that was still controlled by the same white people who did not want their children being educated together. But what they effectively did in that moment is they demolished the only institution that was ever built to support the holistic education of African American children, which was the community schools.
I'm a public school kid all the way through.
I went to a Catholic school from kindergarten to graduation. Mm-hmm. So I always had
all black
classmates and teachers. Nuns.
You often met your friends in kindergarten, and they went with you all the way through. I have classmates who we were in kindergarten and we graduated together. We actually do know, as a community of educators and in the education, what works. We know what can work. The data has been out there, the research has been done. We know what types of things actually work. And work in schools, I'm going to isolate the schools because this is the one we're always talking about. Schools in poor socioeconomic based communities.
Right.
What works?
And these are things that we should be taking up and putting these questions on the table for communities to wrestle with, for parents and teachers to wrestle with, for administrators to wrestle with, and for politicians and civic leaders to wrestle with.
One thing I wrote into our arts grants for this year, though, was that I wanted our teachers to invite parents into their classroom for at least 2 arts-infused lessons a year. Mm-hmm. Because I think if we can get parents to come in for the good stuff, then they're more likely to come back. It's not fun to call a parent and the first contact I've had with them is, your child is hitting someone or whatever. I'd rather that contact be good, and then when I do need to call them about something else, they know that I'm not just a complainer, that I'm a good teacher and I care about their kids.
Let's make sure when we talk about equity, these people who make decisions for children are hearing us.
We have to do the work, the research, the analysis, which is something that the group was talking about earlier, is what is the educational component of this work? What is the historic, how do we talk about history in terms of framing the current moment? And how do we use that as a place to engage creatively and artistically, but also really framing some difficult and heavy questions?
And that is something we have to do a better job of. It's something wrong when other people from other states can come and tell us more about Charleston than our children or us can tell about our own place.
Well, I think I've heard that north is a direction and south is a lifestyle.
I love it.
she gave students boxes and asked them to construct something out of it and write on the box, and they were all very engaged. And
Sixth grade.
yeah, but you also you sort of put to the class this notion of that being a safe space for them to talk about race, which I thought was really good.
So I think a lot of that has to do with expectations. I mean, there have been studies, the data, it's not even a question anymore.
I think nowadays history is really more about meaning. And so there's an interpretive aspect, not cause, not effect, not social science, but experience.
I think you probably have learned how important it is just to formulate questions. Don't be fooled by any specific answer you get to those questions, because there's probably an endless number of answers to those questions. So I think the power of the question is more important than any definitive answer.
What we're doing is not trying to find solutions that create a spirit.
We went out to Marion Square and we took our postcards, and we were able to gather over 100 people within a few hours to write postcards. 138 people within a few hours to write letters to the mayor. And for me, I think for all of us, the most interesting part was walking up to a stranger and saying, "Hi, I am so and so, and this is our project, and would you come and do this?" And people are like, yeah,
The show is not the end, it's just the beginning of looking at things and how to carry that conversation on. And as you sit and have this conversation, 3 and 4 people getting together and say, we have these same issues, let's have a meeting on it, let's carry it to our neighborhood community, let's carry it to the mayor, let's do a petition, let's do a referendum. Let's see how we can solve some of these issues we've been complaining about for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful to see what happens when you put all of those interesting, thoughtful, and philosophical questions together, and I think it'll teach a lot of people about what's going on inside of your minds.
And we can't tackle it as a Charleston issue. Of course, we have to act locally, but we also have to have some solidarity with other communities across the country in order for this to shift the tides.
Okay, well, I think that the idea of going directly to the people and conversing with them and see what they want is good, because it doesn't really make sense to give people things that they don't want, because I definitely believe in bottom up rather than top down leadership, but make sure that you get to know the people so they have the confidence enough to tell you what they want.
I have this belief that being what I am is always an obstacle to a conversation with a lot of people. And we talked about that from the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that now I'm sort of getting over that.
Good.
Which is good. But it took me that long,
Well, I'll just have 3 words to say about that. Remember John Brown.
Remember John Brown.
The city said, we can't do that. We're not going to go that route. In other words, we're not going to have any affirmative action here.
Yeah, right.
We're going to just let it kind of happen naturally. Well, it doesn't happen naturally. It doesn't happen naturally anyway in America. And if you're not willing to defend and protect the access to money, then you just talking.
If you're in charge and you're not doing your job, why is it not getting rid of you?
We just never seem to get over the fact that this isn't personal. This is not personal. This is institutional.
That's where we have to dig a little deeper, because as we're moving forward, we're kind of just moving with the status quo and not really challenging the foundational principles in which these institutions have been built and continue to rely on. And so that's not necessarily the groundwork of what this group is supposed to be doing, I don't think, but it is a question that you have to ask yourself if in fact the work is about understanding how to shift institutions and transform communities.
So if we try to close doors, we're not going to make it. We want to open doors. That's all we're doing.
This is the very spot where my brother, Omar Wallace, was killed.
I'm tired of the land grabbing.
We have a huge food desert.
All the places in between are being left out, and they're the ones that really need the most help with the traffic situation and the schools and no shopping.
It's really that easy to go to prison. It's not that you have to be doing bad. You can just go on a mistake.
And then it's the issue also, which is along the same tier, that has to do with racial aspects of gun violence, because it's so high.
One of the themes that's going to connect all this is the small business. Is the anchor. Small businesses anchor communities.
Small business, like most of our customers that walk through the door, we know them by name. Some of them we know by their car when they park their car. We watch them get married, have children, bring their children in.
The eagerness to like work across communities and like across different organizations.
Being at this meeting for the first time actually made me proud to be a tiny business, you know, because listening to everyone else, telling their stories and being able to relate to it, and now being able to maybe call upon anyone and ask them, how do you do this?
Business is, you know, it's nice to be out there and see people get together and try to come up with some form of solution or to help, you know, in the community with these small business. So that is great.
I love the sense of creating a community of tiny business owners and just meeting all these great people. It's so inspirational.
There were a lot of interesting stories in this room tonight, and there are a lot of cool, local, tiny businesses that need to be highlighted and celebrated. And it's great that this group is doing that.
I feel like there's been other organizations that have tried to do that, but I feel like they've gotten too big. Their fees are outrageous, and so small businesses can't afford to become part of it. So
when I bought Calhoun Street, I could not get financing. I had to go get somebody to go to the bank, to secure the financing and put my name, and then buy him off of it. I even applied one time to the Small Business Loan Association. To me, I felt like I was going to be signing my life away.
Observations, feelings, emotions together, and sort of formulate a plan to make sure that the tiny businesses here in Charleston and the people who are from Charleston are represented and supported as they continue to try to grow along with Charleston's growth. So
I do need a voice.
I always need good employees. It's always, you know, people that want to work in a transformational experience rather than a transactional experience.
See, integration, which has not been critiqued nearly enough, especially in Charleston, it was supposed to be just that, what real integration is. Nobody stopped and asked, well, what happens if white people do not cater and use the facilities owned by blacks? Black folks are now going to those owned by whites, but it's not a two-way street. If white people had decided to put some of their racism behind them, then they would be ordering flowers from Robinson's or even Donald Rose Florist, which came in the 70s. But the idea is monies started moving in one direction.
going to the restaurant to have that connection so the children can meet entrepreneurs themselves, how to start a business, get that ideology in your head that you don't have to work for somebody else, you can work for yourself.
Entrepreneurship is a key thing in the African American community. Like I said, back then, that was a big thing back then because we couldn't get the jobs. So we had to start our own businesses, whether it was landscaping, whether it was just picking up bottles and some kind of, we call it hustle. You know, it's just that when I was growing up, we were taught not to have a hustle, get education to get a job. And that was what they were teaching us from the 80s and 70s. Get a job, get a job, get a job, get a job. Not realizing in the 90s and 2000s, those jobs are not as easy to get. And the hustle is what we were raised up on, our fathers were doing, was really supporting the families and being home.
I do believe that we want these new businesses to come and not just take our money, but put money back into the community.
So one of the services we provide is called respite. And all respite is a babysitting job. All you do is take the individual away from their caregiver and you're giving them a break. Right. So technically, I don't have to do anything with the kids except remove them from their homes. Right. But then when they come here, I have a curriculum. So that's unique. Oh, yeah. So through my respite program, children are going back home different.
A good parenting educator is a necessity in school. Someone that is a part of the community is better than just an outsider. I think you need somebody that the parents respect and want to listen to and believe in.
There is a way of moving the stream and moving, expanding the thoughts and things by using art as a medium, just like education and, I forgot the other, activism.
It's fun, it's frustrating, stressful.
So to be able to incorporate all of those things and then also to talk about the race issue openly and honestly, I think this is a great thing. I think it's something that's necessary, and I think it's something that we'll be able to really impact others with as long as we stay away from the status quo in the box type dialogues.
I think I'm invested in this. It's not like you can go backwards and say, I don't want to do any of this because I'm already here. But I'm here to do it. I don't know if the word is right, but I'm here to kind of make an impact. So I want to make sure we're going down the right path. We're asking the right questions. And that...
Originally a visual arts project, we would like to see that whether it's a story circle, whether it's a tower, whether it's a stool or a table, there is a visual quality to it because I think we absorb things very much visually. Words are okay, but I think we need to consider that the visual is very important. And that's what we're trying to do. We don't have to be visual all the time, and we cannot be verbal all the time. We cannot. So when we say visual, and you talk about, we had this conversation before, and we talk about peace, or with you, I don't remember. Peace and love, you ask a child, he's going to draw a heart. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think we can do better than this. Before we ask them to do anything, the children in that case, and everybody else, we try to bring content to what we're doing. And that's what we're trying to do tonight, in a way. We build content, and then we come with the content and enhance the ability of people to describe their content in drawing or gesture or dance or story, whatever. So I think we have to really work on the content.
The transparency and the visuals are not there for African Americans to keep that, to have pride or to take pride in what the city has to offer. And I think that's what causes the anger.
I think there's going to be an ongoing tension of sorts between
spontaneity, not wanting to script or structure things too heavily, and yet we need a certain amount of structure or topics decided on, and a lot's going to depend on the facilitators for some of these things.
I'm feeling that we're getting closer to our goal of trying to get an authentic meeting in Charleston. I think the more people we bring into the process that can give us some input on how to go about this, we would be more successful. I feel like we're doing something that have a positive good for the community.
With the preservation part of it, I was reading the part where it shows that part, preserve everything but us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true. It's like, wow. Who are you preserving this for?
Well, I like the direction we're going now.
Which is a multi-directional.
All over the place.
I could just hear my students talking, like in my imagination.
I understood the essence of belonging is really where a lot of the personal stories will come and make the public feel that they can be part of a continuing dialogue of about social justice themes.
We cannot pretend that what Trump is real, racism is real, things that they feel is real, violence is real, bullying is real. So as we do this, we have to make sure we deal with reality and not just what we want the kids to hear. Yeah. But if their friends are being killed, if their friends are being shot, if their friends are put in wheelchairs because somebody shot them, then we can't sit there and sugarcoat that your friends hurt, but we're not going to talk about it.
We want people to know who our young men are. Who are they compared to what society see them as?
We need to be honest with kids.
It's a whole different approach that is not the approach that our public school is taking in terms of values and principles around organizing and purpose. And so when you talk about, having a school that is all about testing, those are federal mandates, those aren't local mandates. So the testing is because that's what they said, if you want to get the money to support these institutions, then you have to do this, X, Y, and Z. And their ability to care for these kids holistically, which is what every education should be, is almost null.
I'm not sure when you have teachers who aren't, say, vested in your culture or your background, they can do it, but it's not necessarily going to be automatic. They may do it if they're conscious about it and you make them conscious and they're willing.
That is talking about addressing real-time issues from a real point of view, presenting actual truth and working on developing solutions to reconcile that truth back to a world that rejects the truth. I think this is a very valuable work that we're doing right here, and to tie it in through the arts is something that will revolutionize the sensory perceptions of reality.